Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing? My name is Ezra, otherwise known as E-Soup, and today we are starting Volume 3. I can't believe we're already here. We will be reading chapters 76 to 79. There is a link to trigger warnings in the description if you need it. And yeah, so how are we feeling now that we're at Volume 3? What do you think is in store for our boys in this volume? Because so far it has been quite unpredictable. Good to see everybody here. This was yet again another Monday I was looking forward to. Oh, and while we're here on a new volume, we get to look at the cover. So here it is. The thing that interests me most about this cover... Okay, well, one, they're on a horse together. Hello. And I think that's the new fan that Xiaoqie got for Shenzichuan. But also, I'm trying to figure out what this thing at the top is. Like, what's happening up here? What does that mean? And what... Is the hand holding, like, a chalice? I can't tell what that is exactly. But I'm very intrigued. It's very pretty. Yeah. But yeah, and there's like someone holding a chalice or something, and they're holding it up to the moon, and there's like birds flying in a circle around it. And I don't know if it's a sparrow or what bird that is, if you can see. It just has me very intrigued. Oh, thank you, Henry. You got two Yoshikaru prints and keychains. Oh, I love that. Yeah, the fan is so pretty. I'm so happy that he has a fan from Xiaoqie now. Oh, and thank you, Henry, about the bookmark. Yeah, I really lucked out. I live in a university town, and there's like this art student, like art fair thing, and there was somebody who was making these bookmarks, and they're kind of perfect for a lot of the Danmei covers. Having a horse cover after how Volume 2 ended is insane and unusual. Blue, I do agree, it is a little bit funny. Like, I guess they're gonna be riding together on a horse more now. So it's like, okay, this is a different horse scene, but it's still funny just to happen, like, right after that. Henry, you think they're sparrows? Yeah, for some reason I was like, yeah, I think that's a sparrow, even though I don't really know birds at all, so I don't know where that thought came from, but I guess we'll go with that. Oh, it's black and white covers, like a chessboard? That's right, I did notice, yeah, I did notice it's like a white cover, the last one was, I don't know if it was black, it was like really, really dark. And then back to white again. So is that what they're doing? That's super cool. Are they... That poor horse. Yeah. The haunts. That's cool that they're doing that with the covers. I haven't really seen, from what I can remember, with like Seven Seas covers, I don't think there's a lot of like white covers. So they are kind of striking. It stands out for sure. That's cool. You know, that's a good question, Henry. I know I like recognize your username, but I don't know why the full like display names are not showing up right now. Is that happening to anyone else? I I'm seeing, like, usernames, but not, like, the display name that normally shows up. Maybe this was, like, part of YouTube's, like, change that they did, but I don't know why they would change that. The username is from your Marvel face. Oh, no. Okay. It's good. I know who y'all are. So it works out fine. But that is a little bit strange. So... Oh my gosh, okay. I think we are gonna get started. So... We are on chapter 76, which is called Casting the Net. Okay. Alright, way to start the chapter. The last of the night rain was fading, but the humidity of their bodies lingered in the bedding. The little cottage by the hot springs on Mount Feng had been newly renovated. Although it was small, it contained all the necessities. Xiao Chiye, robe draped over his shoulders, got up and fed the horse and gerfalcon. The only sounds on Mount Feng at daybreak were the soft plinks of water dripping from the eaves. He basked in the mountain breeze for a moment, his robe casually open, until the chill of early spring calmed the sharp edge of excitement that had persisted through the night. He had sobered from the wine, but his passion had grown more intense and vicious, followed by the kind of languid tenderness that came only after being sated. This was the pleasure of indulging in desire. Xiao Chiye removed the saddle on Snowcrest's back and gestured to Meng, who spread his wings and flew out of the eaves into the forest. When Xiao Chiye ducked back inside, the close heat of the place hadn't yet dissipated. Shen Zichuan lay face down on the pillow with the blanket drawn over him, making it impossible to tell if he was asleep or awake. Dangling from his half-exposed right ear was that jade earring. Xiao Chiye took it off for him and, in passing, rubbed his earlobe where it had turned red from the pressure of the clasp. Oh my god, there's art. Oh my gosh. There's art. We're gonna look at that in a second. Not yet. Oh my god. Shen Zichuan moaned. He hadn't yet sunk into a sound sleep, and after another moment of stillness, he opened his eyes to look at Xiao Chiye. We should go, he rasped. Xiao Chiye lay down beside Shen Zichuan and met his eyes. It's a day off today. It's still early. Shen Zichuan hummed. There's still work to be done in the Imperial prison. Henry, I just, looked up and saw your comment. Stop. Shen Zichuan moaned. What else is new? Such a busy man. Xiao Chiye laced their fingers together and pulled Shen Zichuan closer. In just one day, you rose to the position of Northern Judge, and then to Vice Commander. Those you'll be facing now are noble descendants with hereditary ranks. They won't be easy to manage. Someone is bound to try to trip you up with some underhanded trick. Serving at the Emperor's side is never easy, Shen Zichuan said. It was in this way Shen Zichuan lay, expression open, body soft and satiated. They locked eyes. Then, like the gentle breeze after a rainstorm, came their kiss, light and slow. They had earnestly bared their hearts to each other in this humble thatched cottage, as if in these few scant hours away from Chudu, they could cast aside the strategy and prudence politics demanded and become no more than two young men. So we were just told that they did that. So we didn't really get to see that. It's just like, oh, by the way, that happened. This place is too small, Xiao Chiye whispered. The view of the sky is blocked by vermilion walls, and the mountains and plains are hemmed in by cities. Snowcrest can't run to his heart's content. Someday, when we return to Li Bei, I'll take you riding through the Hongyan Mountains. Shen Zichuan rested his head against Xiao Qiya's chest. Is the moon in Li Bei as round as the moon in Duanzhou? Okay, now we're gonna look at the art. Yeah, we're looking at that. Literally, like what? Like the first art of the book, and it's this? I'm like, why is this so stunning? I feel like this could be a cover. Like, I don't know. It's just, like, how far we have come. Xiao Qie answered only after a long pause. I've already forgotten. Is the grass in Duanzhou as tall as the grass in Li Bei? I've already forgotten. They burst into laughter, dispelling that cloud of melancholy. Shen Zichuan breathed in Xiao Qie's scent as Xiao Qie pressed his chin against the top of Shen Zichuan's head. Let's go together, Xiao Qie said. Home? Xiao Qie tightened his arms around Shen Zichuan. Home. Let's ask Jigong Shifu to come with us. Li Bei is vast. There's plenty of space for him. Shen Zichuan laughed and lowered his lashes. Shifu wants to return to Duanzhou. I'm afraid we won't be able to go together. Xiao Qie looked down at him. As long as we can get out of Chudu, we'll go together, even to the ends of the earth. The wolf pup should be in Li Bei. Shen Zichuan found Xiao Qie's eyes again. It would be a pity if the poor thing grew complacent with the life of leisure. Li Bei has my eldest brother, and the Li Bei armored cavalry has my father, Xiao Qie answered evenly. Riding is the only thing that suits me. Shen Zichuan lifted Xiao Qie's chin and looked into his eyes. Talents bestowed by the heavens will find their use. It's only a matter of time. Ce'an. All the hopes of Li Bei lie in this name. Xiao Qie let out a booming laugh and rolled over to pin Shen Zichuan to the bed. He pressed his forehead against Shen Zichuan's. Do you want me or not? After a lazy stretch to ease his aching muscles, Shen Zichuan squeezed the back of Xiao Qie's neck and answered huskily, Will you give yourself to me or not? Xiao Qie dipped his head to kiss him and pulled the blanket up over them both. And there's a scene break. What are we even talking about, y'all? Units bestowed by the heavens. After that rainy night, the days grew warmer in Chudu. The Grand Secretariat demanded Pan Xiangjie's dismissal from his position as Minister of Works, and the Chief Surveillance Bureau submitted more than 10 memorials in a row impeaching him. The daily arguments in the imperial court grew so heated, Li Jianheng's ears ached. Wei Huaigu, the Minister of Revenue, and other high-ranking ministers from the other noble clans stuck together. They wouldn't abandon one of their own at the first hurdle. In the end, even minor officials like Fu Linye were only demoted with a reduced salary and were allowed to remain in the capital. After the fall of Hua Siqian during the coup at the Nanlin hunting grounds, Hailiang Yi had assumed the position of the Grand Secretary of the Grand Secretariat. Although he entrusted Xue Xiuzhuo, a man from the 8 great clans, with heavy responsibilities, he had also promoted several low-ranking officials from common households one after another. Most conspicuously, the current Minister of Justice, Kong Qiu. The two sides fought a bitter war against each other, both before the court and in the shadows. However, this recent case was a matter of grave importance. Someone had to take responsibility for the clogged ditches. The noble clans couldn't push the blame onto a scapegoat this time. If Pan Xiangjie wasn't impeached, then Wei Huaigu would have to go. The Ministry of Revenue was obviously of greater importance to the noble clans than the Ministry of Works. The manual laborers could be cast aside, but control of the treasury must be retained. To this end, Pan Xiangjie wasn't the only member of the Pan clan on the chopping board. His eldest son of lawful birth, the vice minister of the Ministry of Revenue, was also set to be suspended from his post to await impeachment. Li Jianheng no longer spoke his mind so readily before the court. After adjourning for the day, he called for Xiao Chiye to stay behind. They took a stroll around the garden to take in the spring views. I heard you rode out of the capital in the middle of a thunderstorm some days ago. Li Jianheng held back the sleeve of his bright yellow imperial day robe as he offered half of his candied fruits to Xiao Chiye. What were you up to? The Imperial Army's drill grounds are close to Mount Feng. I worry whenever it rains. It's been only a few days since the flooding in the public ditches. I rushed over that night to take a look. Xiao Chiye replied breezily, as if he hadn't registered that Li Jianheng was keeping tabs on him. He smiled. Your Majesty knows all about that military drill ground. It cost the Imperial Army an arm and a leg. If the rain were to damage it, those 20,000 men of mine would have to go squeeze in with the 8 great battalions. If you marched the Imperial Army to the 8 great battalions' military grounds tomorrow, the Ministry of Revenue would allocate the funds for your drill grounds repair immediately. Li Jianheng tossed the candied fruit into his mouth. They have their guards up around you. I've noticed that much by now. They would rather keep you as far away as possible. We're all merely doing our duty. Where do they get such outlandish ideas? Xiao Chiye said self-deprecatingly. Recalling the last time Xiao Chiye was besieged and attacked on all sides in court, Li Jianheng promptly answered, They're full of foul notions, and sly as old foxes. Every one of them speaks with such eloquence, but in truth, their words are traps meant to set others up. Never mind you. They even had the gall to pull one over on us. Take Pan Xiangjie. His dereliction of duty almost led to our death. And look, who should enter the palace last night to keep the Empress Dowager company but Commandery Princess Zhao Yue? The Empress Dowager knew better, of course. She said she wouldn't interfere in state affairs and sent the princess away. Now, how would a girl who's about to be wed know the ins and outs of these political matters? No doubt the Helian Marquis put her up to it. The two families are in-laws, after all. Xiao Chiye followed Li Jianheng down the steps and beneath the fresh green buds of the branches. Has your Majesty made up your mind to punish Pan Xiangjie, then? Of course. We mustn't let him off easily, Li Jianheng said. Chen Yu submitted a memorial just a few days ago with a drawing of the disaster victims from the low-lying district. It's devastating. We are the Emperor. We're confined within the Imperial Palace. It's just as the Secretariat Elder said. All our information comes through others. But that drawing, Pan Xiangjie's negligence and tardiness in clearing up the public ditches led to untold suffering. He must be punished. The Secretariat Elder thinks so too. Having tasted the sweetness of dishing out rewards and receiving praise from the Grand Masters of Remonstrance. That's another word I know, but never have to say aloud. I genuinely don't know how to say that. Grand Masters of Remonstrance within the Chief Surveillance Bureau. Li Jianheng next wanted to make an example of Pan Xiangjie. Remonstrance. Is that okay? Thank you. Thank you, Vase of Peonies. I happen to disagree with the Secretariat Elder, Xiao Qia said unexpectedly. Pan Xiangjie deserves punishment, yes, but he shouldn't be so peremptorily removed from office. Li Jianheng frowned back at him. After such a blunder, you propose we keep him around so he may make another? Xiao Qia cast a glance at the clear skies overhead. Remembering what Shen Zichun had said about how blame would be laid at Pan Xiangjie's feet, he laughed. Of course, your majesty must punish him, but if you dismiss him from his post, it'll be the end of his career. Pan Xiangjie is advanced in age. He's made some worthy contributions in his position as Minister of Works over the years. Your Majesty, the blockage of the public ditches caused sewage to flood the streets and destroy buildings, but the embankments of the Kailing River remained as solid and secure as an iron wall. In previous years, when other regions have flooded, very few dams and embankments have held up so well. The minister clearly put some effort into the construction and didn't cut corners. But his negligence of the public ditches is a fact as well. Why should we let him off easy just because of the Kailing River? Your Majesty, Xiao Qia said. The court assembly this morning discussed the allocation of funds for the spring plowing. The Ministry of Revenue has been wrestling with the provinces over this. They've been at an impasse for half a month. If it drags on any longer, it'll be too late. Blue, you're correct. The translators were coming after me specifically. What's that got to do with dismissing Pan Xiangjie? Li Jianheng was none too pleased. Even if we retain him, the Ministry of Revenue will not allocate the funds. Wei Huaigu's subordinates are all smooth-tongued. Not even the Secretariat Elder wastes his breath arguing with them. Only those from the Chief Surveillance Bureau can draw with them in a verbal match. All the capable officials within the Ministry of Revenue at the moment are Wei Huaigu's protégés. Where he leads, they'll follow. But Pan Lin, Pan Xiangjie's son, happens to hold the post of Vice Minister in the Ministry of Revenue. If your Majesty employs a light touch with Pan Xiangjie this time, their Pan clan will remember your Majesty's kindness. Their loyalty will be as assured as if Pan Xiangjie's son is your Majesty's own. When your Majesty deals with the Ministry of Revenue in the future, you'll have a man on the inside willing to speak up on your behalf. What's more, if Pan Xiangjie is dismissed and prosecuted, the Ministry of Works will have to nominate someone to take up his vacated post. His replacement may not necessarily be as loyal. Here Xiao Qia paused to let Li Jianheng think for himself. Li Jianheng took a few steps. But if he's not dismissed, he said, hesitant, there must still be some punishment that will appease the masses. Pan and Fei are related by marriage. while Fei and she have long been on close terms. None of them lack for money. Your Majesty can find Pan Xiangjie. Have him cover all the expenses incurred from the dredging of the public ditches, then hand him a more corporal punishment of flogging. Flogging? Li Jianheng blurted. At his age, wouldn't that kill him? Xiao Qie smiled. How shall he mend his ways and shed tears of gratitude if you don't give him a taste of his own mortality? Let the Grand Masters of Remonstrance give him a verbal lashing as well until they're satisfied. By the time your Majesty summons him again for an audience, he'll be grateful even if your Majesty instructs him to bark like a dog, let alone cover some civic expenses. Delighted, Li Jianheng circled back. As expected, you're always the resourceful one. Wei Huaigu himself ran the audit on the whole expenditure. I worry he may have, out of impure intentions, doctored the accounts. Your Majesty should act with prudence and have the case gone over again. Sure enough, Li Jianheng hesitated. This is a job for the Ministry of Revenue. Where do we find the man for the job? The other ministries can't interfere in this matter either. Then find someone in the Ministry of Revenue. Perhaps the official at the top can't give a clear explanation. But the minor officials at the bottom are all men who serve your Majesty honestly. Xiao Qie brushed aside a branch and seemed to think things over before continuing. I met a competent official at the Temple of Guilt during the flood. It was he who kept the records and accounts for all the medicinal herbs the Imperial Army collected from the local apothecaries. Even the Secretariat Elder was full of praise for him. Perhaps he's just the man you're looking for. If even the Secretariat Elder praised him, we can't go wrong, Li Jianheng said, overjoyed. What's his name? Let's go with him. Xiao Qie's voice was steady. His name is Liang Tuishan. Do we know Liang Tuishan? Have we met him before? Or is this somebody going by a fake name? For some reason, I feel like it's... I don't know. I can't remember this name, but there are quite a lot of people constantly introduced in this series, so... Was it the guy who helped Shen Zichuan log that medicine? Okay, so maybe his name is Liang Tuishan, because that's what they said he did. Shi Hongxuan had been taken into custody shortly after the flood. He'd originally thought, with Li Jianheng's protection and Xue Shoujuo's efforts, he would be quickly released. But days passed in prison with no word from the outside world. Something, he guessed, had gone wrong somewhere between the throne and his cell. When Shen Zichuan arrived at the prison, he showed his authority token. As the fastest rising, newly appointed official who had so recently shared drinks with the Minister of Justice Kong Qiu himself, he had little trouble finding his way in. Chao Tianya only needed a few caddies of wine to talk the warden around. The moment Shi Hongxuan saw him, he scrambled up and approached the bars. How is it? Why has there been no news? Has Pan Xiangjie been punished? If so, then it's about time for me to be released. Although Shen Zichuan's authority token was swinging from his waist, he hadn't appeared in his official robe. He was dressed instead in a dark gray robe with the collar tightly secured. The dim light obscured his features as he entered, and against his dark clothes, his skin looked uncommonly pale, almost frosty. You're still waiting for Pan Xiangjie to be prosecuted? Shen Zichuan asked. There's been no word of him these days. He's the head of the Ministry of Works. How could the court not punish him after the disaster with the public ditches? Even His Majesty couldn't justify it. Shi Hongxuan clenched his fists. What went wrong? Wei Huaigu, attempting to shirk responsibility and shift the blame, tried everything to drag Pan Xiangjie down. But as you know, pushing too hard can backfire. Even rabbits will bite when backed into a corner, let alone the long-suffering Pan Xiangjie. The Pan clan has offered to cover all expenses related to this incident. The porridge stall over at the Temple of Guilt has yet to be dismantled, and the women folk of the Pan clan have been going every day to hand out porridge to the disaster victims. They've made quite the show of humbling themselves, as if ready to accept any physical and verbal abuse. As they say, not for the sake of the monk, but for the Buddha. Even the Secretariat Elder has had to take this into account when considering Pan Xiangjie's punishment. Solemnly, Shen Zichun continued. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Revenue's repeated delays in allocating funds for the ditch maintenance cannot be covered up. If Wei Huaigu was smart, he'd do everyone a favor and admit his mistakes. He'd endure his scolding and get it over with. Yet he's too oblivious. The man doesn't know when to bend. Second young master, if Pan Xiangjie isn't dismissed and Wei Huaigu isn't punished, I'm afraid the only one left on the chopping block is you. Shi Hongxuan was silent a moment. Wei Huaigu is too money-minded. He's trying to paper over this matter because he's afraid once he admits any wrongdoing, the gap in the Ministry of Revenue's accounts will be exposed, and Hai Liangyi will gain leverage over him. Knowing him, if he can't shove Pan Xiangjie forward as a scapegoat, he'll make me fork over the money instead. No matter what, he won't let himself suffer. Fuck, that wily old fox. When the noble clans had ganged up on Xiao Qie over the assassination incident, they had wanted a share in the 8 great battalions. But instead of knocking down Xiao Qie, they were now fighting among themselves. Shi Hongxuan was indignant. He had already spent a hefty sum making amends for his brother, Shi Guan, after he fell from grace. Fortunately, he had the family salt mines, so silver was still flowing in, and the imperial court had no window into the Shi clan's private accounts. But if Wei Huaigu wanted money, that was a different matter. The 8 great clans knew their own. The Shi were a family of salt merchants who did business by sea and kept a large fleet of ships in the port of Yongchuan. The other 7 clans knew this all too well. Money that wards off a calamity is money well spent, Shen Zichun said earnestly, his face grave. With you behind bars, you'll need someone on the outside to handle this business for you. You're transferring money from private accounts at a great distance. If the Wei clan wants some 10,000 taels, transportation alone poses a significant risk. There must be someone you can trust to organize this on your behalf. This is of utmost urgency. You must see that it's done as quickly as possible. Ask Yanqing, Shi Hongxuan blurted, then hesitated. Although Xue Xiuzhuo knew the ins and outs of the Shi clan, Shi Hongxuan didn't fully trust him not to get some other ideas in the process. The Shi clan's accumulated wealth was something previous generations had risked their lives to hoard, and they owned a string of connected shops and businesses in Jueshi and Hezhou. If it was money Wei Huaigu wanted, Shi Hongxuan could afford the expense. But there was no one to whom he could entrust the task of transferring such a sum. Since Shi Guan's death, the few Shi clan concubines had been clicking away at their abacuses, making their own calculations about the Shi clan's fortune. If he wasn't careful, He'd meet his end at his family's hands before he died in prison. Lanzhou, Shi Hongxuan said abruptly. You've been promoted to vice commander of the Embroidered Uniform Guard, and you're managing the Imperial Prison. You have special rights to enter and exit Chudu on official business. This matter may be inappropriate for Yanqing, what with him now in the Court of Judicial Review. His position will make him too conspicuous. He's sure to draw scrutinizing eyes. How about you handle this matter for me instead? Shen Zichuan looked taken aback. I've neither managed accounts nor dealt with Wei Huaigu before, and I'm not familiar with your businesses outside Chudu. How could I be trusted to handle this? But that unfamiliarity was just what Shi Hongxuan needed. It made Shen Zichuan perfect for the job. I have managers in the Salterns. They know their business, so you won't need to worry about arranging for the money, Shi Hongxuan explained. But the transportation of a large sum like that will be troublesome. Tens of thousands of silver ingots would pile up into the mountains if loaded onto carts. But we can't go the water route. All my family's established routes are on the sea. As far as the inland waterways go, the Hua clan of Dicheng has the final say in the north, while the Yan clan of Hezhou calls the shots in the south. We must go overland, but that means passing through the 13 cities of Jueshi. Fucking hell. I hope all the silver crushes Wei Huaigu to death. In any case, there's nothing you need fear while passing through Jueshi, save for Jiang Qingshan. That man is a tough one. You'll want to watch out for him. If he catches on, I'll be skinned alive. This is too important, Shen Zichuan continued to protest. You should first discuss it with Xue Xiuzhuo. No. Shi Hongxuan's mind was made up. Yanqing isn't suitable for something like this. It would put us at cross purposes if he were to get involved. Just tell him to continue to plead my case in court. Perhaps His Majesty is hesitating over my case now, but when I get out of here, I'm going to serve him Wei Huaigu's head on a platter. He smiled at Shen Zichuan. Don't panic, he added. I know you've no experience with business and trade. I left a bookkeeper in my Chudu residence. His name is Shi Dan, an old hand in my employ. Bring him here if you can. I'll give him all the necessary instructions. Shi Hongxuan was a shrewd man. He didn't dare put his trust in Shen Zichuan just yet. Ji Lei's death was still stark in his mind. Shi Hongxuan was determined to be different, so he had insisted on seeing his own man before withdrawing any money. The location of the Shi clan's keys was known only to Shi Hongxuan himself, and none of the Shi clan's vaults would open without them. Give me a few days, Shen Zichuan said softly. I'll bring him right to you. This is definitely a part that will benefit from rereading for me to, like, you know, fully understand the plan and the politics and all of that. But I think that last time Shen Zichuan said something like, I don't know, like, this is the last time that he's gonna let Shi Hongxuan, like, do something to him, or he is gonna kill him, or something implied like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I'm like, it's interesting to see what'll happen if Shen Zichuan does a job for Shi Hongxuan. I don't know what kind of, you know, what kind of stuff he could get over on him by doing that. But I imagine he might think up a plan. And things may not be as they seem, as usual. So, we're on page 27 for chapter 77, which is called Dispute. Amid the chaos at court, Pan Xiangjie had been suspended from his post as he awaited impeachment. He had received a flogging in punishment and was back at home, sighing and moaning as he lay on his stomach, nursing his injuries. His son, Pan Lin, who was implicated as well, had endured the rebukes of the Chief Surveillance Bureau every day during court. A few days later, he too was suspended from his post and was now under house arrest. Xiao Qie, having been promoted to the rank of Marquis, organized a banquet in celebration and specially invited the Helian Marquis. But after the ill-fated matchmaking attempt with Commandery Princess Zhao Yue, the man was too embarrassed to appear before him. The Marquis feared Xiao Qie, flush with success and notoriously tyrannical, would humiliate him before his other guests. After thinking it through, the Helian Marquis sent his son to attend on his behalf. The young Marquis was called Fei Shi and was another well-known figure on Donglong Street. He had gone drinking with Xiao Qie in the past, but none of the petty tyrants like himself were anywhere near as domineering as that little dictator from Libei. Fei Shi feared the Xiao clan. He no longer caroused with Xiao Qie, and whenever he saw Xiao Qie with Li Jianheng, he always gave them a wide berth. I like seeing other people's, perspectives on Xiao Qie. It's just very fun, to have the view that we have on his character and then see what other people think of him and, the varying beliefs they have. And before it was, Xiao Qie the slacker. And now this is, Xiao Qie the dictator. We've heard about the Helian Marquis before, but Henry, do you mean from something else? It's a side character from... I do not know that acronym. Wait, did I read? Okay. Faced with the prospect of attending Xiao Qie's banquet, he first wilted by half, then changed course and headed to the Pan Manor to persuade Pan Lin to join him. Come with me. It's better than being bored. Fei Shi had scurried over with such haste, he still gripped the hem of his robe in both hands. The banquet is right on the Kailing River. There'll be loads of people there. Pan Lin's son was just a month old. He teased the baby with a handkerchief before saying, "Not going. I've been in a foul mood these last few days. What fun is there sitting at home and playing with the baby?" Fei Shi squeezed in front of the hovering nanny. "I can't skip it this time. My father made his instructions clear. Go have some fun and make friends with him. I heard he's friends with Sen Yu, the left censor-in-chief of the Chief Surveillance Bureau. Think, if Xiao R steps forward and intercedes on your behalf, you won't have to endure those rebukes anymore." Seriously? Pan Lin tossed the handkerchief aside. "Sen Shunyi's been more brutal than anyone in reprimanding me. Xiao R only advanced in rank this time because of his friendship with His Majesty. What's he going to say to Sen Yu? I'm not going. Do you think I want to embarrass myself? Look at you, you're such a stick in the mud." Fei Shi was racking his brain to coax him out the door. Xiao Qie is old friends with His Majesty. If he can put in a few good words for the Pan clan before the throne, would you be in such a sorry state? Come on, let's go. I've had a drink or two with him before. I'll introduce you. Unable to rebuff Fei Shi, Pan Lin found himself dragged out of the house and into the carriage, trundling toward the Kailing River. Oh, it was Devil Venerable also wants to know. Okay. I've definitely seen that acronym before, and I definitely forget it every single time. I'm not sure if Helian has some meaning, like, regarding royalty, but there's also, the Helian, like, family in, well, there's, there's, there's a Helian in, the book that Word of Honor is based on, and I forget if that's his name in the show, too. But I see that name come up in, like, royalty or nobility a lot, so I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone knows if it means something, but that's just interesting to me. Anyway, that is neither here nor there. Xiao Chie's banquet filled all the gaily painted pleasure boats on the Kailing River. Now that he was famous, the brothels and taverns along the riverbanks also benefited by association with a boost in business. Tonight, money flowed through hands like water. Xiao Chie didn't even have to open his mouth. All around him, the crowd practically elbowed past each other to be the first to show him their generosity. Blue, there's Helian Chi and Helian Yi, and Helian something else, I forget. But in this world, there was no such thing as a free lunch. If Xiao Chie accepted their money, he would owe them a favor. If not today, there would be plenty of pretexts for them to lean on him in the future. Xiao Chie knew this all too well, and didn't accept a single coin. Every copper for this grand occasion had been paid out of his own pocket. Chen Yang clicked away at the abacus in the back corner. The more he tallied, the slower he became. Eventually, he tossed away the abacus and said to Ding Tao and Gu Jin, "The palace has rewarded us with so many fields and mansions. Let's sort them out and find an auspicious day to sell the lot." Xiao Chie had just stepped out of his chamber. He cut an imposing figure, outfitted in a golden crown, brocade robe, and coal-black boots. But when he heard Chen Yang, his countenance shifted. He lifted a hand to the money pouch at his belt. "Am I so poor?" "We have too many expenses at the start of spring. The country estates are largely self-sufficient. They'll bring in some money. But most of the manors in Chudu sit empty. They were bestowed by the palace, so we can't rent them out. But we still have to arrange for their upkeep. Both the Prince's Manor and Plum Blossom Manor are permanent residences, and we employ 300 or so people between them. The monthly salaries, monetary rewards, and Ding Tao's candy allowance," Xiao Chie added. "You eat an entire frontier reconnaissance squad's worth of rations each year. We've spoiled you rotten." Ding Tao didn't dare make a fuss. He merely snatched up his little notebook and mumbled. "The princess consort gave special permission for it back at home." "You've grown up," Xiao Chie said callously. "You don't need so much candy anymore. It's bad for your teeth." "I'll hold off on calculating tonight's expenses for now." Chen Yang gripped the table, feeling a little dizzy from the numbers. "I'll finish tomorrow morning." "A man's gotta spend to get things done," Gu Jin said succinctly. "Do a proper audit of the accounts for those country estates," ordered Xiao Chie. "I hardly go there, and Da Ge is too busy to manage them on his end. Leave those subordinates unchecked too long, and they may start to get ideas." He took a long stride out, then turned back. "Calculate those expenses now. It won't be more than a couple thousand taels. There's someone managing this account." Gu Jin watched him stalk away. Who? Who in our household could be managing how our Argongza spends his money? Chen Yang fetched the abacus back and flicked at it intently, before muttering something non-committal. Ding Tao rubbed one boot against the other and leaned forward to whisper, "I know who it is." Okay. Despite the extravagance of the preparations, not many officials were invited to the banquet. No court officials of the 4th rank and above escaped censure from the Chief Surveillance Bureau if they gathered for private feasts. Xiao Qiye was also the supreme commander of the imperial army, so to avoid any appearance of favoritism, he couldn't invite the important military officials who worked with him. The feast Sen Yu had held after the public ditches incident was also a private feast. On that occasion, he had first presented a memo to the Grand Secretariat, and it was only after Hai Liangyi had given his approval that Sen Yu invited his guests. This was how it was properly done. Even then, Kong Qiu, who had indulged to the point of inebriation, had been censured and made to sit through a lecture from Hai Liangyi after the fact. The censors of the Chief Surveillance Bureau, as their title implied, were the Grand Masters of Remonstrance. That's every time I see Grand Master, I think Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation. So I'm just going to start thinking of that when I read that title. They could rebuke the emperor at the top and denounce the lower officials at the bottom. Hai Liangyi himself might receive censure for any negligence. During the public ditches incident, Hai Liangyi, who had held the posts of the Grand Secretariat's Deputy Grand Secretary and Grand Secretary in succession, would have borne the blame if disease had spread. Even the emperor was not beyond their reach. In the beginning, when Li Jianheng had just ascended, he'd found the dragon throne in Mingli Hall so hard his buttocks ached if he sat for too long. He had griped about it to his attendants. Only a few days later, he had received a diplomatic rebuke from the censors. To date, he had never dared bring up the matter of patting the throne again. So Xiao Qiye could invite authorities, neither political nor military, but he could invite nobles, or more specifically, the distinguished nobles. As long as a person was of hereditary noble rank, he invited them all. Most of these rich young masters with titles but no real power had someone in their family to fund them, so they could have all the fun they wanted with perfect peace of mind. Fei Shi was a prime example of such a man. His father was alive and in good health, and his elder sister was poised to marry a man from the Han clan. He didn't have to worry about trivialities like meals and clothing. He wasn't a good student either. He'd barely learned anything. His only vocation was loafing around. The moment Fei Shi stepped out of the sedan, he headed straight for Xiao Qiye, dragging Pan Lin behind him. "Your lordship, congratulations." Xiao Qiye laughed. "I'm honored your little lordship has graced me with your presence tonight. Please drink to your heart's content." Seeing how approachable he was, Fei Shi felt much more at ease. "Your lordship is generous. I shall not leave sober tonight." Xiao Qiye turned a genial gaze on Pan Lin. "And Vice Minister Pan, please enjoy yourself too. Is your father, Lord Pan, feeling better these days?" Pan Lin, whose heart had been in his mouth, relaxed and returned the greeting. "I thank your lordship for his concern. My father's health is much better. It's just that he feels ashamed in the face of His Majesty's graciousness. He's been facing the wall these days, reflecting on the error of his ways." Lord Pan is a veteran minister of 3 reigns. Xiao Qiye sighed with feeling. He's a prudent man, and conscientious in his handling of state affairs. What a pity for him to have met with such unexpected misfortune. Pan Lin had suffered setback after setback in recent days. He had pleaded with a great number of people to intercede on his family's behalf, that their sentences might be reduced. Other than the Fei clan, who still had the heart to help them out, The others came up with all sorts of excuses to turn him away. Pan Lin had been born a legitimate descendant of a noble clan, and his career had been smooth sailing. It was only recently that he had gotten a taste of the real world and learned how fickle and hypocritical society could be. Xiao Qi's words left him both surprised and greatly touched. My father. Pan Lin seemed to choke up, then politely forced a smile. Forget it. I'm here tonight to celebrate your lordship's happiness, so let's not speak of other things. Your lordship, congratulations. I'm blessed that His Majesty sees fit to shower kindness and favor upon me. All I did was crawl around in the mud. I can't compare to the Vice Minister and Lord Pan, who worry about the state all day long. Chen Yang, Xiao Qi called over his shoulder. Invite his lordship Fei and Vice Minister Pan onto the boat, and serve them well. Chen Yang bowed and led the pair onto the pleasure boat. One side of the ship's interior was draped with sheer curtains, and the sound of the peepaw flowed into the night. The seats were arranged according to seniority. Chen Yang led them both to seats of honor. Everyone at this table was a descendant of the noble clans. Pan Lin saw a few acquaintances, but didn't greet them. Sensing the unfriendly atmosphere, Feisha stood at once to mediate. Why, if it isn't the eldest young master Xue? What a rare sight. Xue Xiuyi was Xue Xiuzhuo's elder brother of lawful birth. He had neither talent nor intelligence, and had for years relied solely on his birth to trample Xue Xiuzhuo whenever possible. He was an ambitious man, and now, as he saw the Pan clan on the decline, he had begun to give Pan Lin the cold shoulder. Humph. Xue Xiuyi sipped his wine. And how is the little lordship Fei doing? Feisha produced a fan and waved it a few times. Me? Not too bad. What has the eldest young master been up to lately? You ought to come out and have some fun with us one of these days. Chin raised haughtily. Xue Xiuyi said, I've been busy studying some books that are the only extant copy from the previous reign. My, Feisha smiled. The eldest young master is a man of great achievements. So how is it that you have the time today? All this while, Xue Xiuyi had turned his profile to them, unwilling to look Pan Lin in the eye. I heard Yao Wenyu has returned to the capital. I thought I might see him here tonight, so I came. There are a few things I'd like to talk to him about. Pan Lin had been tolerant of his attitude until now, but at these words, he sneered. Hard to say if you'll ever get the chance. The queue of people wanting to pick Yuan Zhuo's brain is lined up in order of their learning and accomplishments, and stretches from here to the Hongyan Mountains. I fear even if the eldest young master hangs around waiting all night, it's still far from your turn. The thing Xue Xiuyi could least tolerate was others making digs at him for his lack of talent and shallow knowledge. He slammed down his wine cup and said frostily, Fine, perhaps I'm not worthy, but at least I'm aware of my own limitations. I know whether or not I deserve to sit in this position. At this double-edged remark, Pan Lin surged to his feet. Xue Xiuyi had a sharp tongue. He laughed mockingly when he saw Pan Lin's flushed face, but didn't let up. Come now, Chengzhe, take a seat. Why aren't you sitting down? Are there nails in the chair? Everyone on the boat is looking at you. You are basking in glory tonight. Your Pan clan has indeed impressed everyone lately, even more than when you managed to sire a son. Pan Lin's first wife had died of illness, and his concubine's few pregnancies had all ended in miscarriages. Seeing that he was over 30 and still without a son, old Madame Pan had abstained from meat and prayed to Buddha, searching high and low for prescriptions to increase her son's virility. The old madam shoved one woman after another into his bed in hopes of begetting a boy, making such a ruckus that everyone soon knew about it. All the wagging tongues of Chudu mocked Pan Lin behind his back for his unmentionable affliction. Well, trembling with rage, Pan Lin jabbed a finger at Xue Shouyi. You, he sputtered, so furious he was gasping for breath. Who the hell do you think you are? You let your brother of common birth beneath you take charge and manage your clan. You're just dumb as an ox. Xue Shouyi slapped the table and rose as well. Shut up. You are a disgrace to the educated class. You don't know dog shit. You're worse than a beast, Pan Lin countered. Caught in the middle, Feisha clutched his teacup as he was speckled with spittle. Speckled with spittle, that's fun to say. He closed his eyes and yelled, "What the hell? Eldest young master, Chengzhi, stop. Why ruin a good banquet?" Don't you dare put me in the same category as him, snapped Xue Shouyi. He's a disgrace, not even worthy of carrying my shoes. Pan Lin looked left and right, then picked up his teacup and smashed it. The table erupted into chaos. Feisha sat helpless as these young masters wrestled with each other, with no regard for their dignity. Xue Shouyi rarely appeared in public. He was naturally frail and had no skill in fistfights or boxing. It didn't take long for Pan Lin to shove him to the ground. Xue Shouyi clutched his bruised side and wailed, "Ow, ow, ow! You dare to strike me, you—" With nothing left to smash, Pan Lin removed his shoe and swatted Xue Shouyi's face. I'm teaching you a lesson on behalf of Old Master Xue. Who the hell do you think you are? Someone ought to slap that foul mouth of yours. Voices rose around them. Dodging the shoe, Feisha cried, Stop! Stop fighting! Men! Men! Xiao Qiye lifted the curtain, his expression grave. Chen Yang led the guards to break the pair apart. Xue Shouyi had been smacked so hard there were red shoe prints on his cheek. This is so comical. He covered his face and stretched out a leg, still trying to kick Pan Lin. Straining his neck forward, he spat hatefully. We aren't done yet. This isn't over. Pan Lin was a sorry sight as he came back to his senses. He had never intended to humiliate himself so in public. Avoiding all the eyes on him, he endured his misery and said resolutely, Even if I, Pan Chengzhi, should starve to death in the future, I'll never sit at the same table as you, Xue Shouyi. Even if our Pan clan of Dancheng is on the verge of death, I'll never beg your Xue clan for help. He tossed the shoe to the floor. When he raised his head, he didn't look at anyone, but merely turned to Xiao Qiye, cupping his hands before his chest. Your lordship, please allow me to compensate you for spoiling the fun, he said, loud enough to carry. I'll pay you back double for anything I've broken, and I'll even cover the expense of this entire Kailing River banquet. Your lordship, please enjoy yourself tonight. I shall take my leave and call on you another day to offer my sincerest apologies. He kicked off his other shoe. In nothing but white socks, he stepped over the mess on the ground and brushed past Feisha as he made his way out. Your Excellency, wait, Xiao Qiye said, unhurried. Chen Yang, help the Vice Minister change his clothes. Right, Chengzhi, Feisha chimed in. Let's get your clothes changed first. Oh, Vase, you said I was buffering for a second there? Am I still buffering, or is everyone good? Also, yes, ironically, his name does sound a little bit like Shu Xiuyi. Okay. When all was said and done, Pan Lin was a young master of a noble clan. His words might be unyielding, but if he really were to step out into the streets in such a state, the humiliation would be too great. Death might be preferable. At the repeated urging of Chen Yang and Fei Shi, he relented and followed them. Xiao Qie turned to address Xue Xiuyi. Eldest young master, he said, beckoning Gu Jin over with a finger. You too. Okay. That's the end of the chapter. It is time for a break. And when we come back, we will be on page 39 for chapter 78, which is called Individual Servings. Interesting chapter title. Henry, you missed... I can't remember exactly what started the argument, but, it was Pan Lin. Pan Lin, had trouble, siring a child, and there's, like, gossip about how his mother, like, just threw a bunch of women at him, like, trying to get him to, like, have a baby. And the other guy, Xue Xiuyi, was, like, making a joke about that. I could find it again. But anyway, that was what, like, really escalated things really hard. So, yeah. He was kind of like, wow, it's a miracle that you, like, managed to have a baby. Yeah, oh, and his wife had died. So, yeah. I was... Henry, you're going to say an individual serving of Lanzhou ass? Yes, that is totally what the chapter title means. Okay, with that, I'm gonna go on my break. I will be back in 5 to 10 minutes. Hello, I'm back. Yeah, we were just talking about the weird display name to username thing that YouTube is doing. Lonjade, I'm sad to hear that. That you were looking it up and it's been around for a few months and they're putting it out to more people now. So it's probably gonna stay. Cause that means that some of you guys have like the display names that say whether you're a rereader or a new reader, like for the Arha streams, and now it's not gonna do that anymore. So much for that, I guess. Oh well. I forget how easy it is to change your actual username on YouTube. I think maybe they might let people do that, but maybe infrequently or something like that. So, I don't know. Well, we were just breaking up a fight. The boys were fighting. Different boys, not our boys, but other boys were fighting. And meanwhile, we're trying to have this banquet. So we are on page 39 for chapter 78, individual servings of what? I don't know exactly. Catfighting even. I think you're correct, Blue. Pan Lin was the picture of misery as he sat on the settee near the window in his fresh change of clothes. Guilt-ridden, Vaisha sat before him and made several attempts to speak, only for the words to die on his lips. You don't have to say anything. Panlin stared out the window at the brilliantly lit courtyard of an old brothel on the riverbank. It's just my luck to have run into a lowlife like him tonight. If you know he's a narrow-minded lowlife, Feisha said, then why let him get to you like that? Chengzhi, he's not worth it. Panlin barked out a self-deprecating laugh. Has the Pan clan fallen so far that I should forsake my integrity for a meal? If I have to sit there and allow him to mock me like that, I'd rather die. Seeing him like this, Feisha began to realize the social snubbing from these last few days had genuinely hurt him. Feisha might be a spoiled young master, but he was an optimistic one. He reassured him. As long as the green hills remain, one needn't worry about firewood. Where there's life, there's hope. His Majesty hasn't even issued the edict yet. Chengzhi, didn't his lordship say so too? Lord Pan is a veteran minister of 3 reigns. That still carries some weight in his Majesty's heart. At that moment, Gu Jin lifted the curtain, and Xiao Qie bent his head to enter. Feisha and Panlin rose as one to bow. Xiao Qie raised a hand. Gentlemen, no need to stand on ceremony. Lord Pan, please take a seat. Panlin sat and said solemnly, not only have I spoiled your lordship's fun tonight, I've also held your lordship up from enjoying his own feast. I deserve a beating. Xiao Qie didn't really mind, though he didn't rush to say so. Gu Jin served him tea, and he sat and took a few sips before speaking. I've long heard of your Excellency's talents, but never had the chance to strike up a conversation. It could be said fate and luck brought us together here tonight. On hearing this, Feisha smiled and threw Panlin a speaking glance. Panlin hurriedly got up and bowed. Xiao Qie motioned for him to sit again. I was the one who dredged the public ditches, so I'm intimately acquainted with this matter. The public ditches on Donglong Street were old and haphazard to begin with. They were dug long before Lord Pan took up his post as Minister of Works. Frankly, there are too many aspects of this incident that don't make sense. The blame for the flooding shouldn't fall entirely on Lord Pan. Warmth surged in Panlin's heart. A few years ago, my father specifically asked someone to draw up a plan for improvements. But that was back when the Zhongbo troops had suffered their defeat, and the state treasury was empty. The Ministry of Revenue refused to disburse the funds, so the plans had to be set aside. He heaved a sigh. Who could have known? To think there were such plans. Xiao Qie covered the teacup with its lid. But Wei Huaigu didn't mention a word of this before the Emperor. Aren't your families on good terms? At Panlin's silence, Feisha hastened to say, Your Lordship, it's obvious why Wei Huaigu's going all out to curry favor. He wants to climb the ranks. He's served so long, and he's finally qualified for a promotion, just in time for the review this year. He's waiting for the reviews to be submitted so he can be promoted to Deputy Secretary. He plans to stand toe-to-toe with Secretariat Elder High on the Imperial Court in the future. No one expected the public ditches to clog so disastrously at this critical juncture. Of course he wishes to dissociate himself with the issue. He's not willing to shoulder the responsibility in the slightest. Is that so? Xiao Qie's face showed mild surprise. I've noticed the accounts of the Ministry of Revenue seem to have been in good order the past few years. I really thought Wei Huaigu deserved a promotion. To think he'd turn out to be such a vile person who so shamelessly seeks personal gain. Lord Pan's situation is truly unfortunate. Feisha couldn't miss the note of regret in his words. He plucked up his courage and said, Everyone's been tight-lipped lately. Your Lordship, Chengzhi and I have asked a number of people, but no one will say what punishment His Majesty has agreed upon for Lord Pan with the Ministry of Justice. If His Excellency were to be sentenced, would he be assigned out of Chudu? Heart racing, Pan Lin looked at Xiao Chia. Xiao Chia gave his thumb ring a few turns. Only when he had them on the edges of their seats did he speak. It's hard to say. His Majesty seems to be hesitating. As long as the imperial edict hasn't been issued, Feisha said, there's still a chance to turn things around. Your lordship is now a true official in the Son of Heaven's inner circle. I hope your lordship can put in a few good words with His Majesty regarding this issue. I won't put in a good word for Lord Pan. Seeing their faces fall, Xiao Chia continued smoothly. I'll only speak the truth. His Excellency is a talented minister and has made great contributions to the state. Even if he's committed a minor blunder, it doesn't merit execution or banishment. I'll speak to His Majesty again tomorrow. If all goes well, the pardon will arrive at your residence within the week. The rims of Pan Lin's eyes were red with emotion when he stood. He didn't dare overstep and touch Xiao Chia, so he grasped his own sleeves and dropped to his knees as though transplanting rice seedlings. Many thanks to your lordship for saving our lives. Gujin, quickly, help the vice minister up, Xiao Chia said with a smile. I'm only doing what's right. There's no need for your excellency to take it too much to heart. When you return today, tell Lord Pan to rest well. He's still needed for plenty of state and governmental affairs in the future. Feisha, who was frank by nature, said, if there's anything we can do for your lordship in the future, just say the word. Chengzhi, let's go. We must head back and tell His Excellency the good news. Pan Lin thanked Xiao Chia again and said sincerely, please let me know if I can be of assistance to your lordship in the future. Li Bei is too far. I'm afraid I won't be of much assistance to you there. But as long as it's in Chudu, your lordship only needs speak, and I, Pan Chengzhi, will do my utmost. Please, we're all friends here, Xiao Chia said. You mentioned earlier that Lord Pan had found someone to draw up the plans for the public ditches a few years ago. It just so happens that I've been worrying about those repairs myself. Could I trouble you to ask Lord Pan if he could lend me the plans for a look? There's no need to ask. I'll send someone to deliver them to your lordship's manor the moment I return home, Pan Lin said. Xiao Chia offered a few more comforting words, then watched as Gu Jin saw them off the boat. He listened to the music of reed pipes for a moment before turning back to Ding Tao. Tell the cook to go ahead and dish up whatever you like. Once you've eaten, prepare some sweet and spicy dishes. Then get the cook to grill some fish and deliver it to your Shengongzi. Do it quietly. Ding Tao ran off, notebook bouncing in his little bag. Chen Yang stepped up to Xiao Chia's shoulder and murmured, Master, Xue Xiu Yi won't stay put for long. He's still waiting to see Yao Wenyu. Are we going over? Yes, of course we are. Xiao Chia looked back with eyes like chips of ice. Xue Xiuzhuo used the Chuncheng silk to plant a trap for me. I owe him one. Tell the attendants to open a few more jars of good wine. Xue Xiu Yi is of great use to us. The imperial prison, under the charge of Kongqiu, was strictly monitored. No information made its way to Shi Hongxuan, and he couldn't get a word out. He had been nearly cut off from the world, and the longer he waited, the more anxious he became. One night, he woke and found himself in isolation. He had been moved into a windowless room as he slept. Shi Hongxuan was an obese man. He couldn't squat down to the slit at the bottom of the door. All he could do was bend over and call out through the gap to the warden delivering his food. What's happened? Sir, boss, At least tell me something. That warden paid him no mind as he shoved rancid rice and leftover soup through the flap and left. Hey, buddy, please hang on. Shi Hongshuan raised his voice. I still have some silver in my pocket. You've been working so hard these past few days. Why not take it to buy some wine? Consider it a show of my respect for you. The warden turned back and spat at him. Snubbed. Shi Hongshuan sagged back on the straw mat in a daze, leaving his meal untouched. He had barely slept in these days of waiting. He turned his circumstances over and over in his mind, but he didn't know where he had gone wrong. As time stretched in the darkness, so too did his uncertainty. This kind of powerlessness was simply too much to bear. The room was damp, with no ducts to admit air and no windows to admit light. As someone who disdained sleeping on even bamboo mats for the way they pinched his skin, his current predicament was pure torture. Moreover, rashes had broken out on his back, but he couldn't reach to scratch them. It seemed like years later when Shi Hongshuan heard movement at the entrance. The door creaked open, and Shen Zichuan strode in. Behind him, Chao Tianya, disguised as a stoic-faced young man, lit the lamp. Shi Hongshuan struggled to get his legs under him. What's going on? Why am I locked up in here? Was this Kong Cho's idea? I've never heard of such a room in this prison. It's not like you're a veteran convict. It's no surprise you don't know about this place. Shen Zichuan pulled off his cloak and handed it back to Chao Tianya. Come, the food here isn't fit for human consumption. I've had some dishes specially prepared. Eat, and we'll talk. Cloak draped over one arm, Chao Tianya opened the food box with the other, and served up the delicacies they had bought on the way over. Shi Hongshuan sat on the straw mat and watched Chao Tianya's movements in silence. He let out a burst of laughter, and his expression grew cold. This looks like a last meal. This case doesn't merit a death sentence. Why scare yourself? Shen Zichuan sat on the bench Chao Tianya had dusted clean. When he noticed Shi Hongshuan hadn't moved his chopsticks, he gestured for Chao Tianya to produce another pair. He picked a few dishes for himself to eat, before sampling a mouthful of the wine. Finally, Shi Hongshuan reached for the food. Shen Zichuan set down his chopsticks and watched him, smiling. We are brothers. Must you be so guarded against me? Shi Hongshuan picked up a steamed twisted roll and gobbled it down. Only after his hunger pangs subsided did he reply. It's an unusual time. If you were in my shoes, wouldn't you do the same? How did it go with the business we spoke of before? Have you seen Shi Dan? Finishing the wine in his cup, Shen Zichuan nodded to Chao Tianya, who opened the door and led in another man. Second master, Shi Dan nearly pounced on Shi Hongshuan as soon as he got a look at him. He lowered his head and wept. You've suffered. Steadying his hand, Shi Hongshuan drank the last drop of his wine and said, Oh, get up. Don't make a fool of yourself. It's not time for me to meet my maker yet. During these last few days, said Shi Dan, wiping his face, since the second master wasn't home, I've instructed the shopkeepers to manage their accounts carefully. Excuse me, I don't know where I got briefly from. To manage their accounts carefully. I'm keeping a close eye on them, but you're the pillar of our clan. Our businesses can't run without you. Shi Hongshuan ate his food in silence. After a long while, he said, Tell me what's going on out there. His Majesty wants to assign responsibility for the ditches incident, but neither the Ministry of Revenue nor the Ministry of Works will shoulder the blame, Shi Dan replied. Pan Xiangjie is suspended and has already received a flogging. When I saw the direction things were headed, I went to plead with Lord Shui myself, but he's busy with his official duties. I didn't manage to get to see him at all. Yan Qing wouldn't see you? Shi Hongxuan threw his chopsticks down and looked at Shidan through narrowed eyes. Are you telling the truth? In the face of his disbelief, Shidan rushed to assure him. Second Master, why would I lie about this? To find out the truth, you'd only have to ask him yourself as soon as you're released. I wouldn't dare speak falsely. Hasn't His Majesty just issued a general amnesty? The Court of Judicial Review is working with the Ministry of Justice to delve through all the old cases. Lord Shui is neck-deep in the files with Kong Qiu and the others. I didn't dare to stop his sedan chair, so I never got a chance to meet him. It was only when Shidan explained it this way that Shi Hongxuan was inclined to believe him. What rotten luck to be framed with this kind of timing. Lanzhou, who instigated His Majesty to leave the palace? Is there still no update regarding this? There are only so many people around His Majesty. We need only to go down the list, Shen Zichuan said. But it's obvious His Majesty is reluctant to allow any investigation. He's trying to protect the other party. Henry, why did I look up and that's what I saw, is what you just said. Lord Shui is balls deep in the files. Why? Muru is the only one His Majesty would go this far for. Shi Hongxuan clenched his fists. Whores like her are ruthless. She must have had some reason for it. You have to be careful. She'd better not have an imperial heir in her belly and be planning to play regent from behind the screen. Since she's in Xue Xiujuo's camp, I doubt she'll conceive so easily. After a moment, Shen Zichuan reminded him. Your transfer to the Bureau of Evaluations was Xue Xiujuo's idea as well. If it's indeed the case that Muru means you harm, what is Xue Xiujuo thinking? I don't get it. On the day Shi Hongxuan abducted Qi Huilian, Shen Zichuan had likewise mentioned that it was Xue Xiujuo's idea for him to enter the Bureau of Evaluations. Half a month later, the implication of his words had taken on a different undertone. Shi Hongxuan pondered a while. Let's set these matters aside for now. Lanzhou, our first priority is to get me out of here. What did Wei Huaigu say? How much does he want? Whatever it is, I'll give it to him. Shen Zichuan held up 4 fingers. 400,000? Shen Zichuan didn't move. 4 million? Bracing himself on the table, Shi Hongxuan rose to his feet. The dishes and bowls slid and clattered. Shi Hongxuan's expression was ghastly under the lamplight. He flung the wine cup down and seethed. Good one, Wei Huaigu. Well played, Wei clan. So, 4 million. He began to laugh grimly. This is the total military expenditure of Great Zhou. It's almost as much as the cost of rebuilding Zhongbo. That's so much money. Fuck, how does he think he's going to move a mountain of silver? Transporting it from the west, even in batches, would take half a year. And it'll cost extra to convince people at each of the passes and checkpoints when the money is crossing territory borders. Even if the silver actually gets to Chudu, where will he store it? There's simply no way to hide this much money. Shen Zichuan shrugged. What he's doing now is ripping you off by making such an exorbitant demand. What does he care about the logistics? The embroidered uniform guard has heard news that the Wei clan has its sights set on Zhongbo. You saw me, Henry, you saw me look at the chat and react dead-faced. And then I'm not aware of my facial expressions, so I don't know what I was doing. But also, that's a good point. Girl, did you forget you gave him the permission and advice to transport a fuck ton of silver? He is trusting Shen Sichuan with that. Think about it. Wei Huaigu controls the Ministry of Revenue. If he manages to take control of the 6 prefectures of Zhongbo as well, then this sum really will be used on military expenses. When the Wei clan has their own troops, with the backing of the Empress Dowager, then the Shi clan will be at their mercy. Shi Hongshuan whipped his head around to look at Shen Zichuan. When you advised me to join forces with the rest of the 8 great clans back then, did you ever think this would happen? Lanzhou. These people are vicious beasts, one and all. Their greed knows no bounds. The moment they have us in their clutches, you and I will never get back on our feet again. Back then, when I advised you to join forces and kick out the Yao clan, you hesitated, Shen Zichuan reminded him. The Yao clan was a good target. You could have made an example of them. Since you missed that chance, the situation you're in today was only to be expected. Shi Hongshuan, if you don't make them bleed, they'll think of ways to cut you out. Shen Zichuan's tone turned sorrowful. The situation is changing rapidly. It's unlike days gone by, when everyone could still talk reason. Within the 8 great clans, one clan will rise when another falls. It's a wearing down from within. You should have already swallowed up the others and declared yourself the victor. Shi Hongshuan's breathing quickened. He did regret his past inaction. His palms were drenched in sweat as he faced the flickering candlelight. Lanzhou, when I get out of here, I swear I'll heed your advice in all future plans. But it's already come to this. We have to think of a way to get the 4 million first. 4 million is too much, Shen Zichuan said. There's simply no way for that much money to pass through Jueshi without drawing Jiang Qingshan's eyes. Wait a little longer. I will negotiate with Wei Huaigu. At this point, waiting was his only option. Suppressing his impatience, Shi Hongshuan said, "We have to hurry. The situation in the imperial court changes by the day. His Majesty is indecisive. He has no mind of his own. The moment Xiao Er or Muru wins him over, it'll be too late." Shen Zichuan couldn't stay long. As he swept his cloak over his shoulders, he asked, as if an afterthought, "That's right. If you're in prison, then what about Qi Huilian? He's important too. We can't let anyone see him." Shi Hongshuan parted his lips to speak, but seemed to change his mind a breath later. He said, his voice soothing, "Don't you worry. Qi Huilian won't starve to death. I've found someone to watch over him, and the place is well concealed. I'll return him to you once I'm out of here." In the soft darkness, Shen Zichuan turned slightly to glance over his shoulder, the sliver of a smile curving the corners of his eyes. He fastened his cloak and said softly, "Sure thing." A cold draft blew through the open door, making the hair on Shi Hongshuan's neck stand on end. He rubbed at his arms, thinking to say a few more words to reassure Shen Zichuan. But the man was already gone. Okay, what is going on? That is the end of the chapter. I wonder what individual servings, what that chapter title, like the meaning of that, or like the significance of it to this chapter. I was thinking about that. Or I was trying to think about it, but like there was kind of a lot a lot of going on. Xiao Chia has been scheming. Shen Zichuan, of course, has been scheming. 1 million individual servings of silver. Oh, Henry, you said Shen Zichuan, who has sway over Xiao Chia, who has sway over the Emperor. I see you. Yeah, they're definitely... They've got a plan. They're working together on something. It's like when I read the scene first, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. If I revisit it later or like certain things converge later and make sense. But it like when I first read it, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I want Suzhou to rule the empire so much, Henry. Yes, that would certainly be fun. So we are on the last chapter for today, which is on page 51, chapter 79, Clues. I love the name Clues for a chapter title. A cacophony of human voices drifted over the Kailing River. Xue Xiuyi sat cross-legged on the settee, cracking peanut shells and drinking wine. When Xiao Chia entered, he hurried to brush his robe clean and stood to pay his respects. Xiao Chia sank into the chair across from Xue Xiuyi as Chen Yang stepped forward to pour wine for them both. Xue Xiuyi kept his fingers pressed to his sides, nervously wiping his hands on his robe. That's enough. That's quite enough, thank you. Your lordship, too much wine is bad for your health. Cup in hand, Xiao Chia smiled. The eldest young master is conscientious. You must be diligent about your health at home. Only a little. Xue Xiuyi didn't dare sit back down without permission. He was short and slight to begin with, and with his back still hunched in a bow, he appeared all the more humble and lowly before Xiao Chia. Please sit, Xiao Chia said pleasantly. I'd like to seek the eldest young master's advice. Perched at the edge of the settee, Xue Xiuyi demurred. I wouldn't dare presume to offer any. Just from the look of him, Xiao Chia could see that Xue Xiuyi was poles apart from his brother Xue Xiuzhuo. If Xue Xiuzhuo had to defer to an elder brother like this, of course he wouldn't take it lying down. It's been some time since I last saw Lord Yanqing. Xiao Chia paused to drink his wine. I hear he's been busy investigating cases with Minister Kong. I imagine it's been hard on him. He's only basking in glory now because the Secretariat Elder promoted him. Xue Xiuyi had long disliked Xue Xiuzhuo. He had made things as difficult as possible for this common-born brother of his. But regrettably, striking Xue Xiuzhuo had always been like striking cotton, absorbing any damage and bringing all Xue Xiuyi's efforts to naught. He's the eldest young master's younger brother of common birth. According to custom, the one leading the way and joining the ranks of court officials should be the eldest young master. Yet it seems to be the other way around in your household. Xue Xiuyi had accepted the wine Chen Yang poured, not daring to refuse it. After a few cups, his sense of propriety began to slip. He could feel the earth spinning under his feet. He gripped his cup harder and snorted. Well, he's just that capable, no? Your lordship wouldn't know, but ever since he was a child, he's always been the type to ingratiate himself with those in power. He's always been a shrewd one. There was heavy snow the year he was born. Alongside our generation name, Xiu, he was supposed to be named Gui, promising a life of wealth and prestige. But a Taoist priest predicted he would meet a prestigious benefactor in his lifetime, and his name would hinder that destiny. His birth mother was a resourceful woman who fawned upon the old master of our clan in every way. She pleaded for him to be named Zhuo, excellent, instead, to signify the cultivation of virtues and outstanding capabilities, with the courtesy name Yanqing, suggesting fairness and purity. He sure lives a charmed life. Xue Xiuyi's eyes dimmed as he spoke. By the end, his expression was grim. Eldest young master, why contend with him? Xiaoqia said kindly. You're the lawful heir of the Xue clan. You're far more esteemed. His words had struck a nerve. Xue Xiuyi set down his cup and heaved a long sigh. Your lordship. This deep in his cups, Xue Xiuyi grew bolder. You're the second lawful son of the Prince of Li Bei, with no son of common birth to pose a threat to you. You don't know what it's like. People like us fear having a capable younger brother like him back home. He's of lowly birth, yet he's somehow a notch above me. Whether it's at home or outside it, who doesn't praise him to the skies? How can I hold my head up like this? Look at the 8 great clans. Which of them has a son of common birth at the helm? How is it only the Xue clan that's produced a Xue Xiuzhuo? It was because of Xue Xiuyi's own selfishness that he so detested Xue Xiuzhuo. But it was because of Xue Xiuzhuo that the Xue clan had made a comeback in recent years and secured its position among the 8 great clans. The lawful sons born to the principal wives of the Xue clan numbered in the hundreds, and beneath them were the countless common sons of concubines. All expenses for momentous family occasions, marriages and funerals, monthly salaries and monetary rewards, expenses for living in separate manors, as well as taxes and sundries for the country estates, flowed from the Xue clan's coffers. Initially, old Master Xue had planned to prop Xue Xiuyi up and let this eldest son of lawful birth take charge of managing family affairs. But Xue Xiuyi was either too engrossed in cultivating the mystical path to immortality, or busy lavishing money on undeserving impostors and swindlers. It was precisely as the Empress Dowager had once said. The current generation of the Xue clan was a worthless lot. Other than the common-born Xue Xiuzhuo, no one else was worthy of notice. Xue Xiuzhuo presently held the position of assistant minister in the Court of Judicial Review, as well as acting as head of the Xue clan. In just a few years, he had managed to halt the family's decline and helped it find footing among the noble clans. He had plenty of brothers at home who loafed around and contributed nothing, as well as both paternal and maternal uncles who spent their days devising schemes to cheat the clan of its money. All of them lived off Xue Xiuzhuo, even as they spat on him, shamelessly reaping the benefits of his efforts, while cursing him as a lowborn. Xiaoqia knew all of this already. He and Shen Zichuan were of the same opinion. If not for their uncertainty regarding Xue Xiuzhuo's loyalties, who had all along been hiding behind the noble clans, they, valuing talent, would have tried to recruit him to their camp. The Chuancheng silk incident was the crux. It had altered Shen Zichuan's opinion of Xue Xiuzhuo and turned him into a person they must guard against. A man astute enough to tie thousands of puppet strings as precautions, long before events were set in motion, was unlikely to put himself at the disposal of another. I know I noticed that, Blue. Their camp. It's their camp now. They're, like, firmly working together now. Running his fingers along the rim of his cup, Xiaoqia considered. Everyone has times when they're down on their luck. The eldest young master oughtn't be too anxious over it. In any case, Xue Shouzhuo appears to be acquitting himself well beside the Secretariat Elder and Minister Kong. He's not known to drink or fool around either. He's a decent man who knows his place. Xue Xiuyi immediately grew agitated. He fell into wine-induced hiccups and had to cover his mouth to compose himself before blurting out, "That's all just an act. Your lordship, you know of the twin flowers of Donglong Street, right? Ohua Pavilion and Xiangyun Villa. Well, a few years ago, Xue Shouzhuo bought a bunch of young men and women from Xiangyun Villa and hid them in our manor to train up." Xiao Qia's gaze sharpened at the mention of Xiangyun Villa, and he lowered his voice. "Xue Shouzhuo bought people from Xiangyun Villa?" "He did." Xue Xiuyi held up 10 swaying fingers. "He bought more than this many boys and girls, all from Xiangyun Villa." After a moment of silence, Xiao Qie rose. "Chen Yang, keep the eldest young master company. I'm expecting Yao Wenyu to arrive any moment. I'll go welcome him." Xue Xiuyi sat straight up at the mention of Yao Wenyu's name and stuttered his agreement, not daring to pester his lordship any further. As soon as Xiao Qie stepped out the door, he shouted, "Gu Jin!" Gu Jin dropped down from his station on the roof and went to one knee. "Argongzi, when I told you to investigate Xiangyun Villa before, how could you miss that Xiangyun sold over 10 people to the Xue clan?" Stunned, Gu Jin didn't dare to raise his head. "I beseech Gongzi to punish me. During the assassination case, Xiangyun had betrayed Xiao Qie and provided false testimony that he'd accepted bribes. The entire incident remained strange. To date, their investigations had uncovered nothing explaining why Xiangyun would suddenly throw Xiao Qie over for the noble clans. Xue Shouzhuo was no lecher. Yet he'd bought so many people from Xiangyun Villa and hidden them in his manor without anyone the wiser. What secret lay buried there? Shen Zichuan was right. Even when Xue Shouzhuo wasn't directly involved, his name appeared in every incident since the Nanlin hunting grounds, perhaps even in everything that happened before that pivotal night. No shit, you should be punished. You've been drinking since we arrived in the capital. Have you crawled so deep in that jug those sharp eyes of yours have gone blind? Incompetence and dereliction of duty. No doubt you should be punished for both. Go ask Chen Yang for a whipping yourself." Gu Jin began sweating profusely. Xiao Qie had entrusted Gu Jin with this job because he appreciated the man's meticulousness. Gu Jin was by far the most skilled at this kind of reconnaissance work. As a former scout in the Libe Armored Cavalry, he had never made such a blunder. What Xiao Qie said was true. Gu Jin had stayed in Shudu too long and taken his duties too lightly. "I'll give you 2 days to get to the bottom of this. I want the number of people Xiangyun sold to Xue Shouzhuo, their names, places of birth, ages. I want to know who their parents and distant relatives are." Xiao Qie strode past him and said in frosty tones, "One more oversight like this, and you needn't remain in this position." Gu Jin kowtowed silently, then rose to his feet and streaked off toward Xiangyun Villa. When Chen Yang, finally freed of entertaining Xue Xiuyi, came out, he saw Xiao Qie's dark expression. Hoping he was delivering better news, he said, "Master, Xue Xiuyi is taking a rest. Get someone to escort him home tomorrow morning." Xiao Qie turned and cast a glance back into the room. "There's a set of rare books in Plum Blossom Manor. Send someone to fetch them. You can give them to him on his way out." "Those are part of the Yao clan's collection.
Chen Yang reminded him. Should we inform Yao Gongzi? Yao Wenyu sold Plum Blossom Manor to me with everything in it. He's already decided he doesn't want them. He spends most of the year out traveling in foreign lands. He's not worried about these dusty old books. Xiao Qied had more than a few cups tonight, but he didn't seem drunk. He tossed aside the handkerchief he'd used to wipe his hands. Besides, even if he returns to the capital, he's elusive. It's hard to catch even a glimpse of him. There's no way he'd attend a banquet like this. He is not an easy man to pin down. If Yao Gongzi hadn't declined to join the ranks of officials in the imperial court, I fear Xue Xiuzhuo wouldn't have had a chance to shine as he has. Blue, don't toss that. I know someone who'd love to have that handkerchief. Xiao Qi's look of displeasure hadn't eased. The turbulence of politics can't be equated with engagement with academia. Yao Wenyu might not necessarily fare any better in court than Xue Xiuzhuo. They're an interesting pair, opposites in every way. When all's said and done, Yao Wenyu is Secretariat Elder Hai's student. If Xue Xiuzhuo is a traveler of the secular world, Yao Gongzi is an immortal who transcends it. Chen Yang pondered this. But Secretariat Elder Hai appears to cherish Yao Gongzi all the more for it. You're right. Hai Liangyi imparts his knowledge to Yao Wenyu without reservation. He didn't hesitate to break his own prejudices with regard to the noble clans and accept him as a student. This alone shows how he values him. Xue Xiuzhuo's political achievements are enviable, yet Hai Liangyi still won't afford him the dignity of accepting him as his official student. And what's more, in all these years, Hai Liangyi never made the slightest attempt to force Yao Wenyu into politics. Xiao Qiye sighed and continued. Yuanzhua, Yuanzhua, a precious stone in its primordial form. It was out of fatherly love that Hai Liangyi bestowed this courtesy name on Yao Wenyu. Such closeness between teacher and pupil is not something anyone can compete with. Yao Wenyu is a young master of the noble clan, directly descended, he pointed out to Chen Yang. Going by their logic, he's even more legitimate than those so-called legitimate heirs of the Pan, Fei, and Shui clans. The Yao clan is righteous and distinguished. In the past, even the eligible young ladies of the Hua clan found it hard to marry into this clan. By Yao Wenyu's time, mountains of gold and silver cannot compare to the wonder of a bowl of wild vegetables. Chen Yang had seen Yao Wenyu only a handful of times. Even when he bought the estate, he had but one brief encounter with him. He remembered the man as a scholar with nothing on him but a book pouch, who shunned horses and sedans, and instead kept a donkey. Is Ding Tao back? Xiao Qiye asked abruptly. He hasn't left yet. Let him play. Xiao Qiye strode into his own room and traded the brocade robe he was wearing for a set of casual clothes. The banquet has gone on long enough, and I've already shared a toast with all those with whom I ought to keep company. There are still a few hours before daybreak. I'll be back soon. Shen Zichuan stepped out of the alleyway, and Shidan followed. He didn't dare overtake Shen Zichuan, and so simply stood behind him awaiting orders, his head lowered. After looking him over for some time, Shen Zichuan said, unexpectedly gentle, You spoke well tonight. Shidan hastily bowed. Is it this lowly one's greatest aspiration? Oh, it is this lowly one's greatest aspiration to help your excellency out of any frustration or difficulty. Shi Hongxuan is suspicious by nature. We won't trick him out of real cash with a few words, Shen Zichuan commented. Are you familiar with his businesses across all the various regions? Yes, Yes, I am, Shidan nodded. His accounts, large or small, are always sent to his estate in Chudu each month. The 68 shopkeepers under him are all sons of domestic servants. The lives of the parents, wives, and children of these people are all in his hands. They were raised specifically to manage his businesses. They can't hide any activity in the storefronts from his eyes, no matter how minor. He knows the score. That's why his business empire has run so smoothly all these years. If Shi Hongshuan wants to withdraw these 4 million taels, he must hand you the key and instruct you to take the money from the vault, Shen Zichuan said. My only question is, how will the money be transferred? Shidan made a few mental calculations. It's true that there's a huge risk traveling overland. The carts must contain some cargo as a front to conceal the silver. This is 4 million taels we're talking about. Without a long-standing business to serve as cover, Jiang Qingshan, the provincial administration commissioner of Jueshi, will see through it in an instant. And Your Excellency, if we travel by land, we must first pass through the 13 cities of Jueshi, followed by Dicheng. These are all difficult checkpoints. Most importantly, Shi Hongshuan is right. There's no place in Chudu that could conceal this sum of money. These were silver ingots they were discussing, not paper notes. Even if one had a vacant courtyard in which to hoard them, it wouldn't likely be able to accommodate the full 4 million. On top of that, there was the headache of spending this much money once it was in hand. Shen Zichuan considered as he looked into the night. This sum will not enter Chudu. Shidan didn't dare make a sound, waiting for Shen Zichuan to continue. Sure enough, he did. The shipment will be subjected to inspections in Jueshi, whether it is transported by land or sea. 4 million is too large a sum. Even if we're thorough in our planning and hide the shipment from prying eyes, we can't count on every man who carries out our orders to be so meticulous. And it's all pointless if the money can't be spent when it comes. No, this money won't reach Chudu. What Your Excellency means, trying to follow the line of Shen Zichuan's thoughts, Shidan ventured, is that we should trick the money out of him, keep it where it is, and circulate it through trading. Half of it will be handed to you to do just that, Shen Zichuan said. I'll come up with something for the other half. Be prepared. The Shi clan's businesses are extensive, and they can't operate without a manager. When Shi Hongshuan falls, you'll be next in line. Shidan swiftly agreed. Shen Zichuan climbed into the waiting carriage alone. He still had to return to the imperial prison to sift through the files of all the cold cases within the last 2 decades for clues, and didn't have time to go home and sleep. Hello, clues. Chapter title mentioned. When the horse carriage reached the imperial prison, Ge Qingqing, who was on night patrol, had given the order to open the gates and waited for Qiao Tianya to drive in. As Shen Zichuan stepped down, Ge Qingqing came closer and whispered, His lordship the Marquis is here. Shen Zichuan reached for the clasp of his overcoat as he strode onto the front porch and nodded toward Ge Qingqing, who took his leave. Pulling the coat off, he draped it over his arm and pushed open the door. Xiao Qie had spent the evening indulging in wine, and the scent of alcohol lingered on him even after a change of clothes. He slumped in Shen Zichuan's chair, an open book covering his face. At the sound of the door, he lifted the book but didn't move. Come sit here. Xiao Qie tossed the book onto the table. Shen Zichuan shut the door behind him and hung his coat on the rack, unfastening more clasps at his throat as he went. meeting Xiao Chie's gaze. He swung one leg over Xiao Chie's thighs, looking him in the eye as he shifted closer. Xiao Chie reached out to wrap his arms around Shen Zichuan's waist, their soft lips meeting as they kissed to their hearts' content. That's the end of the chapter. We love the clasp thing. That is the end of the chapter. Well, so we opened on some intimacy and we closed on some intimacy today. And in between, there was a lot of scheming and a lot of politics, but I do like this situation we're in now, where Shen Zichuan and Xiao Qie are like firmly in the same camp. They're working together. Their schemes are like fitting together, and we know that now. Although I still think there's definitely still stuff that Shen Zichuan knows and is up to that Xiao Qie isn't aware of. And that might be the case for Xiao Qie as well, but I'm not as certain about that. But they're certainly a lot closer than before in like several ways. Yeah, why did so much just happened? Right. Same camp, same bed. Yeah, Blue, I also love the current dynamic and schemes. And also, Blue, you said the book didn't need to blue ball us like this. To be fair, it was the timing of the stream and how many chapters I can read that blue balled us, really. But when we return on Wednesday, we will be on page 63 for chapter 80, which is called Bride Price. So that's a fun title, I guess. I don't know what that's about, but Blue, nope, the book did. You insist. And Brittany's Arha streams are back this week, so we have that to look forward to as well. So I guess for those of you who are following both, we're on 4 streams a week time again. So I don't know about you, but I'm excited about that. But yeah, this was fun today. Certain words were kind of a mouthful. I'm gonna have to remember the Grand Master of Remonstrance. Remonstrance? Strengths? I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up to make sure I'm like really saying it right, but it really just makes me think of Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation. I can't help and just imagine like a political organization with like that title, and then like just some sort of crossover somehow. Yes, exactly. Remonstrance Cultivation. Demonic Remonstrance. It's beautiful. I love it. So, I'm gonna go. I had fun today. I will definitely be rereading this portion to fully absorb what just happened. I will see y'all on Wednesday. So thank you for joining the stream. Bye.